Ladies and gentlemen, greetings, salutations, Waco from The Rake and Revolution. I'm here to introduce two watches that fill my heart with happiness. Let's put it in the context of what we've all experienced over the course of last year. I think we all kind of went through an existential malaise and a feeling of alienation. And finally, it looks like the world is turning back to some semblance of normality. A lot of us are getting the vaccination or have been vaccinated. It looks like travel is going to resume. And most importantly, it looks like we'll be able to spend time with friends and celebrate. So we've created two watches that we hope will be the symbols of that celebration, inspired by two of our favorite cocktails. One of them will be no surprise to you. It's based on the Negroni. And the second one is based on the Spritz, which is also one of our favorite drinks for summer. So why the Negroni? In some ways, the Negroni has become a symbol of the rake. And throughout all of last year, what I found was really interesting was because of all of the sharing of images of Negronis throughout isolation, throughout lockdowns, throughout quarantines, the Negroni almost became a symbol of resistance against the sort of creeping dark thoughts that would occasionally fill our minds. And I love the way in which the sartorial community in particular banded together and shared pictures of Negroni drinking, shared memories even of uplifting moments of Negroni drinking. So the Negroni has a very storied history. It was created 100 years ago. It was inspired by Count Camillo Negroni, and I believe he was in Florence, and he was asked his favorite barman Fosco Scarselli to replace the water normally found in his Americano with gin. And so this famous barman created the Negroni, which comprises of 1/3 bitter, oftentimes Campari, but others can be used, 1/3 vermouth. My favorite is Antica Formula, but there are others as well, and then 1/3 gin. And I like the sort of mathematical efficiency of that drink. It's very easy to make in that regard. But we wanted to create a watch that celebrated this moment where we can all reconnect and drink Negronis together. One of the things that I liked was that the Negroni had somehow become part of the sartorial community in a very deep and entrenched way. And looking back at it, I think it's because the world's most famous menswear trade show happens in Florence. And so as we all descended en masse to Florence to work very long days, dressed in what I hope was our sartorial splendor. It probably is for everyone else. For me, it was some sort of sartorial incompetence. But nonetheless, in the evenings, we would go to our favorite bars. Gili, for example, on Piazza della Repubblica, just outside of the Savoy Hotel, and we would indulge in our favorite Negronis, and we would have pictures of ourselves taken with the Negronis, and somehow it became something quite symbolic. But to me, the Negronis, maybe even more, something that relates to old school manners, old school ethics, a love for permanent style as opposed to fashion. It reminds me of jazz. It reminds me of beautiful double-breasted Italian tailored jackets. And the Negroni, which is this drink right here, has inspired now the color of this watch from Bell & Ross. It's actually quite a good Negroni, which we are calling #Negroni time. It's actually a Bellytanker chronograph, so as you guys know, the Bellytanker was inspired by the idea of Bell & Ross. If it had existed in the 1950s, what kind of vintage style chronograph would it make? When I first saw this watch in 2018, I decided that I loved the iconography of it, and even based on that, a few years ago, we created two limited editions based on the idea of watches that had aged over time and showed patina. But this year, we wanted to have vivid, vibrant colors, not only because they were inspired by cocktails, because we feel there's an edifying effect to that. And this is the first of those two watches, and as I mentioned, it's called #Negroni time, which is the hashtag that we hope you'll share with it when you post this picture of your watch while you're drinking your favorite Negroni. It's placed on a vintage style Negroni themed rally strap, and we took a lot of care to find the right color that really did seem as if it was inspired by Negronis. The first 20 watches will have a secret message on the back of it, and the remaining 30 watches of the 50-watch production run will be plain case backs. The next watch I want to talk about is #Spritz o'clock, and that is inspired, of course, by this drink, which is the Spritz. And the Spritz also has an interesting and very storied history as well. The drink goes back to the Austro-Hungarian Empire and when it used to be the sovereign of Venice, which was one of the most important maritime cities in the world. Venice was this sort of incredible cross-section of so many different cultures, but what was interesting was that the Austrian soldiers that were sent to Venice found the native wines to be a little bit too overwhelming for their palates, so they started to mix it with water, and they called these spritzes. In 1919, a pair of brothers called the Barberi brothers created a a bitter called Aperol, and that was mixed with Prosecco, and that created what we perceive to be the modern Spritz. But for me, when I'm asked where's the first place that I want to go to when I can travel again, my immediate and instinctive answer is Venice, and to, of course, my favorite hotel, the Gritty Palace, which has got to be one of the most fabulous destinations in the world, and I know a lot of you guys feel that as well. And what is my routine when I arrive at the Gritty Palace? And this applies regardless of what time of year I go, because I oftentimes go in winter, which I think is a wonderful time to go to Venice. I find actually the Agua Alta to be incredibly romantic. And I go to the bar and I go to find my great friend, the head barman there, Luciano Cristiano, and without even asking him, he will slide me a Spritz, a perfectly made Spritz, which I will drink on the terrace of the Gritty Palace, overlooking the Duomo, and reflect on how wonderful life is. And so that's this watch right here, hashtag Spritz o'clock. I think we got the colors actually really perfect on this watch as well. And I hope you too will find these watches uplifting, and hope that you will wear them on your wrist and enjoy them as symbols of celebration for us to be able to spend time with one another again, hold each other, hug each other, enjoy conviviality as we should be able to, and that I know we will be able to this summer. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for joining us, and I wish you all great health. Cheers. And cheers once more.